Greetings and salutations, my name is Deltran, doing builds for Valter the Dark Moonstone. You and I are going to go over his matchups, some good builds for him, but first, let's get his digits. So we take a look at his stats here, and we're looking for 42, 35, and 32. He hits a couple of these criteria, and he has really good stats for a flyer, but, well, we'll talk more broad brushstrokes here in a moment. First, I just want to point out that his defense is 34. That is wonderful by many standards. His resistance is 19. That is terrible by many standards. His attack of 32 is something that you could try to work with, and 42 hit points is pretty decent. He has a nice BST, and he has good all-around stats, but the problem with things like this is if you have good all-around stats, it tends to mean you're not good at anything. Let's find out how true that is. Let's compare him to his contemporaries. So we see here that he's at the top of the pile with hit points, along with Florina, Katria, and Tana is all the way at the bottom there. As far as attack goes, he's roughly in the middle, maybe the top middle. Tsubaki, one of the closest comparisons that people have been making to Valter, is all the way at the bottom as far as attack goes. Of course, he has a Sapphire Lance, so there is a bit of a difference there. The double tappers at the top there, Hinoka and Cordelia. Speed, Tana is the fastest. Valter really is about in the middle, and then Florina at the bottom here. Defense-wise, he's 1 point short of Tsubaki's 35, so I put him pretty much equal up there. So he has a very nice defense, and that is something that you would think you'd be able to build him around, and there are things that you could do with him there, but, well, we already know resistance is absolutely terrible, so let's take a look at what he swings with. Cursed Lance, a unique weapon only for him, nobody else. Don't think about touching it. I hear it's cursed anyway. But Might 16, as you would expect from unique weapons, and it gives him +2 attack and speed, and it accelerates his special trigger cooldown by -1. That is awesome! And the unit takes 4 damage after combat, so it's a weird hybrid form of Fury. Honestly, I really like this weapon. This is a nice weapon. It's a good thing that it is unique because it would not necessarily replace Brave Lance, but it would be put into so many builds. There's a lot of times where this is not just acceptable, it's desirable. Especially if you have some type of Desperation Fury user. I mean, taking 10 damage after that swing, that'll probably put you into Desperation range for many of the builds that would want to use this. Luna is the special attack, cooldown of 3, dealing the -50% defense and resistance whenever he swings. So he gets a really big hit every 3 swings because it cools down faster. So that's pretty cool. As far as everything else he gets, he has himself a darting blow for his A slot, letting him get +6 speed whenever he attacks. This is good because this patches up that speed of his. When it comes down to it, his speed is not terrible, but whenever at the end of the day, he is competing against a lot of red sword lords, and all the most popular ones in PvP arena, and all the ones that cause you the most problems in PvE have a really high speed. So this is needed in order for him to actually not get doubled by them, or to maybe even double some of the slower ones. And then we have Panic Ploy as his C slot, making sure that he flips around all the bonuses and the negatives on people as long as he has more hit points than them. That's a really great skill. A lot of people are very excited for that skill. But it's at this point here that we're going to go ahead and talk about how to use Valter. The thing is that he's going to chew through hit points very quickly. With that 4 extra damage every round, he's going to be taking... It's actually not exactly something that he can withstand because his best skill is defense. He's not going to be a massively heavy hitter. He's not disappointing at any point, or by any means. And we'll see that here in a moment when we look at the obituaries. But basically what you want to do with Valter is you want to go ahead and fly around You want to go ahead and block a couple of things and then use Luna in order to have a huge damaging retaliation attack against the enemy. And it will work, that's great, but his lifespan there is very limited. He's not like Tsubaki, who could continue to block greens all day long. Not only does he not have a Sapphire Lance, thankfully, but he is taking all kinds of extra damage. And you might think that 4 damage, oh, that's nothing, that's just chip damage. 4 damage is enough whenever you have a defensive unit. If you want them to last an entire fight and block an army for you, 4 damage is terrible. I mean, at this point in time, I mean, if you think about it, if you expect him to block 3 units, you're asking him to come into the fight with 24 less hit points. That's sort of what you're saying. Now, of course, that's not damage that kills him, so you need to be able to leverage that. You could go ahead and have him block a couple of crucial places at first, and then go ahead and block a bunch of greens or other things that just aren't going to damage him the rest of the fight. You could also use him a bit aggressively later on. Once he's low on hit points, you might as well just go for it. So, let's see what happens whenever we go to the obituaries. 87, 3, and 73. This is a great set of skills, and you would think you'd be able to buff this up even more, but unfortunately this is really close, not exactly, but it's really close to his ceiling. But there's a lot of great faces here that we like to see in the obituaries. A lot of good blue, a lot of green, mostly casters, but hey, that's fine. We have Kagero here. Hey, good to see you. It's a good lineup. I mean, there's even an Ike sitting there. At the end of the day, Valter is going to be able to actually deal a hit and take a hit. My fear is that it's only 1, and let's go ahead and take a look at the flip side of this. The 3 that get him whenever he's not on defense, whenever he's going after people, 2 gem weapon users and a Hector. Don't initiate against Hector. But, you know, that's not a surprise. There's about 15 people that'll kill him whenever he is on defense, and for the most part, they're all mages. Even red mages get in on the fun. Valter is not... I mean, that 19 resistance is a killer for him. But that's okay. When it comes down to it, almost everybody is a wet paper bag against mages in this current meta, so that's alright. So how do we make him a little bit better? Reposition, as usual. King Friday is what you want to have as your assist slot. A couple of great B slot skills to fill into here. Escape route. He's going to drop hit points fairly quickly if you abuse him. So you might as well put escape route on him so that he could just zip around the board and be able to stab people in the face as necessary. Swordbreaker 3 is going to be good to help him take care of all the sword lords that you would expect the blue unit to take care of, but he can't because of his speed. And he's an okay desperation user. He actually does not meet my criteria for someone who you want to have desperation on. However, he will lose hit points so quickly that after he's defended a few times, he'll be in desperation range. He's going to keep dropping in hit points, and this will let him stay a viable threat on the board as long as you use him offensively as opposed to defensively. He is getting 1 less kill whenever he's using desperation, which is unfortunate. A good desperation user tends to get more kills because of the way things go, but we can't have everything. If you need to do a little bit of replacement on the cheap, you could go ahead and go with Moonbow. That's actually going to get him a little bit farther if you're not completely rebuilding Valter. He needs to have that extra damage a little bit sooner. And hey, Moonbow with an accelerated special trigger, that's yummy. Goad Flyers is what I would recommend actually as a C-slot skill. His Panic Ploy is terrible on him. He's losing hit points so fast. Now, it's not completely useless. You can line him up and make sure that his initial strike is going to just be devastating. Or a buddy's initial strike is going to be devastating. You know, he is with friends after all. But when it comes down to it, he's not a great candidate to keep Panic Ploy. As a matter of fact, 42 hit points, while that's what I look for, is not even considered high. There's a lot of units, especially, I mean, you can't use them against Armor Emblem for sure. So when, at the end of the day, Panic Ploy just isn't his best C-slot skill, so I recommend getting rid of that for something like Drive Defense as well. And I put Drive Attack in here. I know, it's definitely not budget, but it is something to consider. So I only have one extra build here for you that's a complete overhaul, and that would be a Brave Lance build. Surprise! 109, 8, and 46, or 99, 51, and 11 whenever he's at 1 hit point. The reason why I showcase why he's at 1 hit point isn't because he has desperation or anything. He doesn't really need it. What the idea with this build is that with 42 hit points, that's enough to heal many heroes to full or close to full. So what you do is you put the Brave Lance on him, you give him reciprocal aid instead of reposition. Let him keep Luna, he'll fly around, and he could heal up an ally who has taken too much damage, and that'll put him in the range of Wings of Mercy 3. He then just zips around the board, giving people attack buffs from drive attack, and with Life and Death 3 on there, he has plenty of kick to be able to do what he needs to do. This means that you're basically sacrificing his defense score, which is important on him. So just a warning that if you're looking for a build like this, there are other units that do this better, but if you have a crappy IV Cordelia or Hinoka or something like that, honestly Valter fits the build just well, and there are other builds for those guys that may work out a little bit better in the long run. And I just wanted to point out that, you know what, this is a unit that you could build that is a flyer that would operate well in non-flyer teams. I mean, he's not going to be moving people around, but he's going to be buffing everybody else. That's why I went with drive attack as opposed to goad flyers in this particular build. He is meant to be support for non-flyer teams, and I think that that is quite wonderful. A flyer mixed in with infantry units, there's a lot of good that could come about, and I think a lot of people are realizing that now that Tana is released with guidance, but even before then, there are still plenty of ways you can make that work, and this is just one of them right here. And hey, do me a favor, if you're on mobile, rotate your phone to portrait mode. If you're on desktop, hit escape to leave full screen mode, and hit that like button if I'm giving you something to think about. If you like your Fire Emblem information hot and fresh like grandma's cookies, hit that subscribe button. My name is Delchan. Thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate all of you. And until next time, take it easy.